Welcome back to the Verdict Zone. Tonight, we are delving into a case that goes far beyond a simple bad date. We're calling it the celebrity chef catastrophe, but what we're really examining is a chilling pattern of escalating disrespect and personal violation. This story needs to be told, not for shock value, but as a critical lesson in recognizing danger signs that can be subtle at first, and then terrifyingly overt. Our story, shared by a member of our community, begins with a sense of excitement. A match on a dating app with a man who claimed to be a celebrity chef. He was charismatic online, full of promises of a fantastic evening. The first hint that something was off was the choice of venue. Instead of the upscale restaurant one might expect from a chef of his supposed caliber, it was a rather average, dimly lit bar. A small detail, but a crack in the facade he had so carefully constructed. As they sat down, the evening quickly devolved from a date into a monologue. He wasn't interested in getting to know her, he was interested in performing. He spoke at length about his fame, the famous people he knew, the restaurants he'd supposedly helmed. It was a relentless stream of self-aggrandizement. She tried to steer the conversation, to find some common ground, but every attempt was bulldozed by another story about his own importance. Her smiles became forced, her posture tensed. This wasn't a connection, it was an audience of one. The discomfort soon curdled into genuine alarm. In a bizarre and unsettling turn, he casually mentioned a past violent legal charge against him, brushing it off as a misunderstanding, a minor hiccup in his grand life. Think about that for a moment. On a first date, he introduced the specter of violence. This wasn't an accidental overshare. It was a test. It was a way to gauge her reaction, to see if she would be shocked, scared, or perhaps, desensitized. It's a classic tactic to normalize disturbing behavior, to see how far the boundaries can be pushed before they break. Sensing the shift, our viewer smartly texted a friend to come and join them, creating a buffer, an exit strategy. The friend's arrival changed the dynamic, but the chef's behavior only grew more erratic. The self-aggrandizing monologue continued, now with a new audience member to impress. The air was thick with tension. And then came the financial manipulation. When the bill arrived, a classic, almost cliché move unfolded. His wallet, he claimed, had mysteriously vanished. Suddenly, the famous, successful chef was unable to cover the bill. The burden fell to our viewer and her friend. This is another form of control. It creates a sense of obligation, a feeling of being indebted to the perpetrator, even when they are the ones causing the entire problem. It's a power play disguised as a mishap. But the night was not over, and the worst was yet to come. What happened next is difficult to discuss, but we must, with clarity and gravity. After leaving the bar, on a public street, this individual committed an act of shocking and profound degradation. This was not a joke. It was not a lapse in judgment. It was a purposeful, calculated act intended to humiliate and dehumanize another person. It was a disgusting assertion of power, a final, violating statement that he could do whatever he wanted, without consequence, to her person. It was the ultimate violation, a physical act meant to strip away her dignity in the most public and debasing way possible. We need to analyze this predator's playbook so we can all recognize it. It starts with what looks like love bombing, but in this case, it was status bombing, overwhelming the target with tales of fame and success to create a dazzling illusion. This is the hook. Next, comes the boundary testing. Casually dropping information about a violent past, boasting relentlessly, ignoring social cues, these are all probes. He was checking the fences, seeing what he could get away with. Each time a boundary is crossed without a firm and immediate consequence, the perpetrator is emboldened to push further. Then, creating a cost. By making her pay the bill, he established a financial imbalance. It's a subtle but effective way of saying, "You owe me." It complicates the victim's ability to just walk away clean. It creates a messy, entangled feeling that can be hard to shake. And finally, the ultimate assertion of control. The final act on the street was the culmination of everything that came before. It was the physical manifestation of his contempt, his lack of empathy, and his desire to dominate and degrade. It was the point where all pretense dropped, and the raw, ugly truth of his character was laid bare. Now, let's focus on the survivor's response, because her actions were absolutely critical and correct. In the immediate aftermath of this traumatic event, her first priority was safety. She did not go home. She recognized that her safety could be compromised. Instead, she and her friend went to a hotel. They secured a safe, neutral space. She took a shower, a symbolic and physically necessary act of cleansing, of washing away the filth of the encounter and reclaiming her own body. This immediate focus on personal safety is the most important lesson here. In a moment of crisis, your only responsibility is to yourself. Get to safety. Everything else can wait. To help us understand these dynamics better, we spoke with a relationship safety expert. They emphasized that red flags are often a constellation of behaviors, not just a single incident. The initial deception about the venue, the non-stop ego-driven monologue, the mention of a violent past, each was a warning flare. The experts stressed that trusting your gut is paramount. That feeling of discomfort, that sense of things being off, is your internal alarm system, and it is almost never wrong. They also wanted to make one point unequivocally clear: no one is ever at fault for another person's abhorrent, abusive, or violent actions. The blame lies solely and entirely with the perpetrator. The responsibility for their actions is theirs and theirs alone. This entire, horrifying ordeal forces us to confront a very difficult question. When did basic human decency become an optional feature in dating, rather than the non-negotiable foundation? It seems we are hearing more and more stories where common courtesy, respect, and empathy are completely absent. So what is our collective responsibility here? What responsibility do we have to share these stories, to amplify these warnings, to protect others in our community from predators hiding in plain sight? Stories like this are not just gossip. They are survival guides. They are cautionary tales that must be heard to protect others from similar harm. If you believe in holding toxic behavior accountable, and if you want to be part of building a community of awareness and mutual protection, your voice is needed here. We believe in shining a light on the truth, exploring the consequences, and prioritizing safety above all else. Stand with us in this mission. Subscribe to the Verdict Zone and ring the bell so you never miss a case. We are a platform for truth, for consequences, and for safety. Your support helps us keep this conversation going. Hit subscribe now. Thank you for watching.